Investigators are finding in Minnesota is growing by the day. Kelly Loeffler, who leads the Small Business Administration, says in the 2 days her agency has been investigating the state, they've uncovered at least $1 million in PPP fraud just 2 days in. Several of the whistleblowers in Minnesota have also told lawmakers they believe the total amount of fraud could total up to more than $8 billion. Governor Tim Walz, who is up for re-election, is under fire for all of this happening under his watch. But he says they have paused these programs. They've brought in outside auditors to get an idea of how far-reaching this fraud was. They're taking steps to keep it from happening again. And he's defending his management of the state while also taking shots at Republicans and the president.
And in spite of the headwinds we're up against, Minnesota ranks economically, economic growth, happiness, number of people insured, education levels, near the very top. So I'll tell you what, I have no interest in having this state look like Oklahoma or Mississippi. And if folks are going to commit crimes here, thinking because our generous spirit and our programs that we have is going to give them some kind of cover, they are sadly mistaken.
Yeah, Minnesota is also now home to the single largest pandemic fraud scheme in the country. And Republicans argue that Walz and other Democrats opened the door to this.
All right. This is the Politics Fix segment. We could do whatever we want here. It would be history, current events, hot topics. Obviously, today we're doing a hot topic. Let's be very, very clear. I'm going to start by asking this question because apparently when these people get called out, there's always some issue that has to be redirected somewhere else. So why is it that every time these so-called cosmopolitan liberals get exposed for their little nefarious late night activities, states like Oklahoma, Alabama, Mississippi, they always end up catching strays? Like, what did they do to you? How did they get in the beef? Every time the fancy coastal elites get caught red-handed, suddenly it's, oh, look at those backwards red states. Nah, bro, cut it out. Because here's the funny part. And when I say funny, I don't mean like funny, ha ha ha. I mean, you can't make this mess up, or as my friend Craig Long says, you can't make this shit up. The Agriculture Secretary, Brooke Rollins, said she asked all 50 states to hand over basic data, the names and immigration status of people receiving SNAP aid. This is a federally funded program. So yeah, they can ask you to see the books. If you're taking someone's money, they can say, I want to see the books. So this is nothing scandalous, nothing that should take a whole Senate committee to gather. This is just basic routine accountability. And guess what? You know who actually complied? 28 states. And you know of those 2 states, who's on the list? Oklahoma and Mississippi. Oh, not those states. You should actually try to be like Oklahoma and Mississippi. So if they're so backwards and so incompetent, why are they topping the compliance list while these quote unquote progressive powerhouses can't even respond to an email? Now let's talk about the ones who didn't comply, because this is where it gets cute. Minnesota, New York, and California. Governor Tim Walz, sir, step into the light. Your state didn't answer. And considering everything that's been unearthed so far, because there's a lot more, this is exactly the time to pick up the phone, answer the email, send the files, drop the receipts, something, because you got that shiny little D next to your name. And because of that, it just seems like that, along with the Trump administration making the request, suddenly, you know, you're being hyped up by the brain dead people who put you in office to resist, even though they're the ones getting robbed. I mean, let's be serious. According to Secretary Rollins, the whole point of the data request is to root out fraud. You think everyone would jump on that, right? Why would we want fraud anywhere in our system? Why would we want people who are not entitled to these benefits to take them, to be accepted? But no. The same Democrat states that swear They're the richest, they're the most progressive, they're the most economically superior, the ones that love lecturing everybody else. They turn out to be the ones who sue and block and not respond. California said, we already verify eligibility. They said we don't share large swaths of sensitive data. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. That's cool. But if that's your stance, if that's your line in the sand, Sway, then don't take federal money. Raise the tax dollars in your state and fund your own programs. And once you do that, you can create your own rules. You see how that works? If you don't want oversight, you shouldn't want the check either. But they want the money and the immunity, mind you, the bag and the blindfold. It doesn't work like that. Meanwhile, Governor Walz, that house of yours got cars driving by you saying the R word. We'll say the R word for the sake of TikTok. You know, y'all know what the R word is. And honestly, oh, wait, hold on. We coined a new word. I got a new word tonight in the Savage Patriots live stream. What was it? Timtard. So calling you a Timtard. And honestly, that's the least of your problems, because the House Oversight Committee has opened an investigation into what federal prosecutors are describing as the largest COVID-19 fraud scheme in the country. Now, let that sink in, ladies and gentlemen. Not 10, not 3, the largest, the biggest, numero uno. That's not the time you want to be number one. And you know what's the saddest part and the craziest part? It all happened on your watch, bro. Governor oh, Montgomery. This isn't a little paperwork mishap. This is not somebody forged a signature. This is a whole organized network siphoning hundreds of millions of dollars meant to feed low-income children. And it flowed right through a Minnesota nonprofit called Feeding Our Future. Oh, yeah, they're feeding their future, all right. They're feeding their mud huts. That's what they're doing. As of late November of this year, 78 defendants have been charged, and prosecutors say roughly $300 million so far in taxpayer funds were diverted. Governor Walz, that's not an oops. That's not a misunderstanding. That, sir, is a colossal failure. A failure that sits directly on the shoulders of the Walz administration. And the crazy part, the whispers were there for years. Fraud and child care assistance programs go back. These allegations go back to the year 2017, 2018, but everyone was too scared to push it. Why? Because the perpetrators were tied to Somali Minnesotans. No, hell no. Ain't no Somali Minnesotans. The Somalians. When you're a Minnesotan, there's an American or a Minnesota flag hanging up in your house, not a Somalian flag. Yeah. When you run for office, you hang an American flag, not the flag of the country you fled. So no, you're Somalians, not Somali Minnesotans. If you were Minnesotans, we wouldn't see your raggedy flag every time we see your face. Because the perpetrators were tied to Somali Minnesotans. Yes. And nobody wanted to be called racist. So let me tell you something. If you are so terrified of the word racist that you let criminals steal $1 billion from programs meant for vulnerable kids, then you, sir, are not a leader. You're a mannequin. And everyone you appointed is made of the same cheap plastic. This isn't progressive. This isn't inclusive. This isn't justice. This is negligence. Children suffered while grown adults played identity politics. And listen, let me remind y'all of something really quickly. Really quickly. Because this fool, along with Kamala Harris, ran a campaign that was 107 days long. How do we know? Because Kamala Harris wrote a book, Genius, 107 Days. She had almost $2 billion in her war chest. And how after 107 days you end up in a $20 billion deficit? How you $20 million in a hole? $2 billion 107 days. I can't spend $2 billion in a lifetime. If money management was a sport, Democrats would have been an Olympic team. And these are the same two dummies you wanted to be your president and vice president. Yeah, they can't handle a campaign. They can't handle one state, but you want them to handle all 50. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? They can't balance the budgets of these small things, but you want to trust him with the most complicated economic system on the face of the earth. And so, Mr. Walz, you can't even oversee a budget meant to protect the most vulnerable in your state. You've allowed criminals, including actual terrorists, to steal at least $1 billion from programs meant for disadvantaged kids because you didn't want to look insensitive or racist or problematic. Meanwhile, the kids paid the price. Walz is up for re-election next year, but honestly, I don't even think he should be allowed on the ballot. Not after this. Not after $1 billion plus, because the number's going up every day as more stuff gets uncovered. $1 billion evaporated under his supervision. Governor Walz should be held accountable. Everyone involved should be fired. And the people of Minnesota should be guaranteed in writing that this level of corruption will never, ever, 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 ever happen again. This is not a moment to play politics. This is not a moment for pretty speeches. This is a time for higher standards, for accountability, for results. And let's be clear, calling out a fraud scheme dominated by individuals from one region of the world is not racist. It's called a fact. I know we don't like facts. We like our feelings. You know, you leftists, y'all like your feelings, but facts don't give a damn about your feelings. Fraud does not have a diversity quota. Wrong is wrong. Right is right. Aren't y'all the main one? No one's above the law. Aren't y'all the side of no one's above the law? Oh, no one's above the law until they're a Democrat. Okay, got it. The culture of corruption has to end. And the demand for accountability has to start, not tomorrow, not during the next election cycle, right now. And I want to close with this, ladies and gentlemen. I want to close this segment with this because this tickled me a little bit. Governor Walz was upset. You know, he got a little testy on the mic because he said people were driving by his house calling him the R word. I mean, President Trump used it accurately to describe you. You are, in fact, the R word. And now, thanks to Marlon, you're a Timtard. You are an emphatic Timtard. And to pay homage, I just want to clarify for the sensitive people. You know, I know your nether regions are hurting right now because I just put the smackdown on you. But the word is not meant for people with handicaps. It's meant for non-handicapped people who are stupid. If you don't understand this, you are, in fact,